Beyond the Waves is a Hail Hail Media production. It may contain sweary words, and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage temps, turn off the show now and listen back later. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email us at beyondthewaves67@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show, or you can join our group on Facebook at Beyond the Waves. Hail Hail, and keep the faith.
grow to realize that everything ain't black and white, it's brown. Oh Lord, your life drags on and every day is the same. It's a long way to paradise from here. It's a long way to paradise from here. Every week you stand in line, you queue to put your name upon the form. And every week they have devised another way of making you feel small. Oh Lord, your life drives home and you're not living at all. It's a long way to paradise from here. It's a long way to paradise from here.
Welcome to the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. My name is Graham Wilson. And we are through to the final. One of the old Lee McCulloch three-pointers. What an idiot. All right, we got an eventful week this past week. So much to talk about, so much to get to. Obviously, we want to talk about the game today, and I believe the Rev will be joining us here shortly. But in the meantime, the Skype lines are wide open, so I want to hear from you. Give us a call and say your piece. Explain your thoughts on the game today. It was not a thing of beauty. Towards the end, I thought that we were watching a Naked Gun movie. I mean, I was half expecting Leslie Nielsen to walk down the tunnel and just put his hand on Lennon's shoulder and just say, "Everyone's counting on you. Good luck." I mean, it's just a comedy of errors. Seriously, if that was an advertisement for Scottish football, my name is Howard Cosell. I mean, just from the ref down to the managerial decisions, really the team that was put out to begin with, and then some of the substitutions were quite frankly confusing at times. And it didn't even take extra time. The entire team looked gubbed by about the 80th minute, which is surprising to me considering, basically, I'd say more than half the team put in 50% effort throughout most of the game. So how you could be tired after that, Gary Hooper, I have absolutely no idea. I have absolutely no idea you could be winded by stopping at the 18-yard box, turning your back to goal, and then just standing there. That must be exhausting. Really, I wouldn't think it is, but apparently it takes a lot out of you. And for me, yes, we got the victory. Yes, we moved on. But here's something that I think is an important point of context. I made some feelings clear on Twitter just after the game, expressing my disappointment in the performance. And let's be honest, we were not far from losing this game today. I mean, by mere inches. This had the hallmark of all of the previous Hampden performances from this team. Wasting opportunity after opportunity. Chances going above the bar, hitting, the woodwork, just wasteful in the 6-yard box. And then it seems as though when we have the ball, we're a flurry of activity doing, just all sorts of excess. And then when we lose the ball, we take a rest. There's zero tracking back. There's zero pressing from our forwards, with the exception of Chris Commons, who, in my opinion, Kenny, who's in the chat room today. Hello, Kenny. He and I were talking about this at the pub today, Washington, D.C. Celtics Supporters Club in Bethesda, Maryland. Chris Commons, for me, has really stepped up as not just a player of the year candidate, but I think he's pulled into my first thought in terms of the player of the year. I mean, absolutely tremendous performance today, and he was really left to do all of the pressing up top. For me, with the starting 11, we really had no shape throughout the game, but the best that I can make of it, considering the players that were on the park today and how they sort of tried to fit in, was a bit of a Christmas tree. Gary Hooper up top, and then you have Jamesy and Chris Commons supporting him just behind, and then, of course, the midfield three of Joe Ledley, Victor Wanyama, and Charlie McGrew once again finds the midfield. How this continues, I have absolutely no idea. Many people have heaped praise on his performance today. I saw just repeated instances of, just looking like he didn't want to be there, confused at best. Certainly had his moments, but from my perspective, he was far more of a liability in midfield than what he indeed offered. And then, of course, the back four of Izagari, Ambrose, and Kelvin Wilson with Michael Lustig out to the right. Now, here's the context. Here's the familiar hallmark of Neil Lennon's sides at Hampden. Zero width. The fullbacks don't have license to get forward. Now, today we saw much more of that from Izagari down the left, but Michael Lustig, it looked as though there was Velcro tied to his shoes once he got past the halfway line. I mean, there was absolutely zero overlap down the right. And Joe Ledley would get the ball about 25 yards out, look to the right, and there'd be nobody there. I mean, Wanyama might, get just in front of him, but then stop. It's just static. There's no sort of outlet with that. Now, with James Forrest and Chris Commons, both playing that supporting role just behind, I mean, they sort of had that floating license, and in essence, they canceled each other out. I would much prefer see Jamesy floating down the right-hand touchline and just stay there. Just stay on the touchline, stretch the defense out. And we do this every single time we play at Hampden. And believe it or not, Hampden's a bigger pitch than Celtic Park by the metrics. It doesn't seem like it. It's almost like an optical illusion with the running track around it and just heaps of space away from the supporters. But it's massive. And it's a waste. Trying to play so narrow through the middle. And one pattern that I've noticed over the past several weeks, and there's absolutely zero adjustment for this at all, and it just kills any sort of momentum, any sort of tempo that we have, is any of our attacking players get to the top of the box, turn their back to goal, and then just stay there. I mean, just completely stationary. They're statues. And Gary Hooper, for me, I mean, he hasn't been interested since the January window. I regret suggesting that we should hold on to him because, quite frankly, we should have taken the money. We should have taken the $6 million or $8 million or whatever it was and let him go because he's been gone since. And for me, he should just train with the reserves. Neil Lennon needs to bring him in, sit him down, have a conversation, say, look, we'll keep you in training so you can keep your fitness up, and we'll do our best to move you to a place where you want to be in the summertime. But it's just not going to work. The fact of the matter is, Gary Hooper is not in our future. He's not in our future plans whatsoever. He doesn't feel his future is with Celtic. So why we are going to continue to play him, I think, is complete folly. Tony Watt, just beaming with potential at this point. I mean, scores the goal against Barcelona. You'd figure he'd get more of a run out in the space between then and now, and we've barely seen him. He is our future. So let's wrap up the league next week, and then that's it. Let's let Gary Hooper train to keep his fitness up, train with the reserves, and we'll do our best to move him where he'd like. I mean, he's had some fantastic moments wearing a Celtic jersey. We owe him that much, but we also owe it to ourselves to have players out there that are hungry, that want to be there, that want to excel and to shine. And for me, he is not displaying that and hasn't been for quite some time. So the answer is clearly obvious. We're now joined by the bold, the brave, Krolski Donsky. Hail, Krolski. What's the script, pal? Are you going to remember this conversation midweek? I was a bit hurt. You came on last week, had a good call. It was, made some excellent points, checking in, on the experience at the rally and everything. And then, check up with you in the midweek, and you're like, oh, did I do that? I must have left an impression on you.
It was an eventful evening, that one.
Oh, yeah. No, you know what? You're excused.
Cheers, mate. No, it was good. Cheers to having me on. It wasn't until I kind of listened back. I was like, oh well, man, aye.
Nah, fantastic stuff.
Just a few points you're making there, right? See what you were saying about hunger and all that. That's really, for me, that's just really infuriating me just now. We've got these players. I've been saying this for years, even going back to Strachan and Martin O'Neill, I've been saying for years, we've got players who, don't get me wrong, no team should ever go out and feel a game's won before it's actually played and win. But we've got players here who, they're paid so much more than obviously their opponents. You know what I mean? They're meant to be quite a few levels above their opponents. You know what I mean? And years gone by, they've obviously struggled. This season is especially infuriating for me because you've got these players where, because there's no longer, let's say, yourself and Paulie touched on it last night when, was it last night or was it Celtic Dreams on Friday night?
Right.
Touched on obviously the competitiveness.
Yeah.
See, the bottom line is, right, I can't wait until we finally put this league to bed.
Yeah.
Because see, you know what I'll do? See, like Hooper, sometimes Wanyama as well this season.
Yep.
There's many players in that team. I would just drop them. I wouldn't even put them on the bench. Hooper, for me, is I hate criticising players, especially obviously after it was a crank game today, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Hooper, for me, I couldn't believe Hooper was still on that park.
No, I agree. I completely.
Hooper since the January transfer window, he's just been non-existent. They're putting a man down.
Agreed.
You see what Tony Watt, put Tony Watt in there. At least if Tony Watt goes and does, if we get beat and we've got the likes of Tony Watt in there, the boy like Twagic, we've got Chalmers left back. You know what I mean? If
exactly.
We've got young boys in there actually going out and busting a gut.
Exactly. I mean, having Gary Hooper or players, you know, and that sort of mindset on the bench are getting in the way of players like Chalmers, like you said, Tony Watt. I mean, you're essentially taking their spot away from them, and they are our future. You know, Gary Hooper, it's clear we are not in his future, so I would assume the feeling's mutual. Let's move on. You know, we can keep him in training, we can, you know, keep his fitness up, et cetera, and we'll move him on. But for me, he's not bringing anything to the table, and hasn't done so in quite some time.
I was a bit hard on the boy Miku. Boy Miku came out and said, obviously what you said about Lennon and all that kind of thing, but see if you're sitting on that bench, or even if you're not on that bench, and you can see Hooper playing so poorly, and yet you're still going to get a chance.
I'd be fuming.
No wonder. He's quite infuriating. I mean, so. Yeah. But I can't wait until we come next week. Next week we finally wrap this up. Then I would say to Lennon, okay, right from the start, even Foster, since the turn of the year, since he got his cap, he's been a bit. I mean, maybe I think maybe one of the goals he was a bit static.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Zaluska, and you go, Zaluska. Right back, could you put it right back? You may obviously keep Matthews, Lustig. I don't think maybe none of them. Gershon, okay, Gershon, shows what you've got.
Yeah, let's have a look. I mean, we have no idea what this boy brings. Absolutely.
Yep. And then also you got your boys like, okay, there's a spot on opportunity. Central midfield, cup final time. No Wanyama, no Kyle, Logic, on you go.
Yep.
Prove yourself.
Yep.
Prove that you've got what it takes to go in and make that position your own.
Spot on.
We're not sure if Brown's going to make it for the cup final. But there we go, Rogic. There's your perfect opportunity.
Spot on.
Don't cement your place. No just for the final, but for next season.
Spot on. I mean, at this point, you know, my biggest fear at this moment is we'll wrap up the league next week, and you know the trailing games will still continue to play. You know, Lenny's favorites. I mean, Wanyama will continue to play. Mulgrew will continue to play. Wilson and Ambrose. I mean, you know, especially. I mean, they've played a lot of football. Ambrose hasn't been right since he came back from the Cup of Nations. I would probably give him a bit of a rest. I don't know what's going on with him, but it definitely needs to get sorted out. I mean, he's turned into, you know, this spring he's turned into the modern version of this year's version of Mastorovic. He gets the ball at his feet, and I have kittens. I don't know whether, you know, he needs some time away, maybe, you know, clear his thoughts, maybe get his fitness back, but you know, to your point, I mean, we have these young players, Jackson Irvin. We have, you know, some of the younger center halves coming through. Gershon, we still don't know really what we have, and I think that's a loan to buy. I'm going to be, and I'm just going to call it right now. I'm going to be upset if we continue to see Hooper week after week after we have the league wrapped up, and Tony Watt isn't even on the bench. I mean, for me, that doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, we want to know what we have, not just that, but let them develop. I mean, remember Tony Watt coming on against Motherwell last season. I mean, it was 0-0, and it was, I mean, a carbon copy of these just dour SPL games where there's just nothing doing. Tony Watt comes on and scores a brace after 65 minutes. I mean, that's the type of thing that we need to do with players like Rogic, like you mentioned. See what we have, let them develop, because, I mean, these qualifiers to get into the Champions League are not far off. And some of the players who are getting these runouts week after week, they very well may not be with us for these qualifiers.
Yeah. That's the bottom line. With Hooper, for me, his head's elsewhere. I just cannot. There was. I went to put a tweet out this afternoon. Stokes, come on, Stokes, for what? How long was he on for? He was on for what? 40, 45 minutes, including extra time, and he showed far more than what Hooper did in the whole game.
Well, for me,
what Stokes says at the end of the game, it's about winning trophies.
Exactly.
Hooper knows. As soon as that transfer window closes, Hooper knows he's still at Celtic. He's still got league to win, and he's still got cup competitions to win.
What's clear to me, and there have been, there's been this the article by the unnamed player who, I think there was a book written, and there's articles appearing in the Guardian where it talks about players not giving a toss about winning medals or winning trophies, and sort of the downfall of the cup competitions. With the article obviously specifying the diminished significance of the FA Cup. I think that Hooper falls into that category of it's more about the money. I don't think he cares about winning medals. I don't think he cares about winning cups and trophies and accomplishments. His head's turned. He wants to play in the EPL. He wants that money. He wants that acclaim. And I think he's gone. Essentially, we are wasting an opportunity to bet in some of the youngsters, and we're playing with a man down. We're at least a half a man down by having him out there. I mean, for me, what's inexcusable is you look at the great teams, and Dundee United did it. I mean, they exemplified it in many circumstances today. When we had the ball, they pressed the ever-loving hell out of us. When are we pressing? When are we pressing? Barcelona, you see, everybody gets distracted and sort of enamored by Barcelona with the silky passing and Xavi and Iniesta and Messi and all this fancy stuff. The genius of Barcelona, the brilliance of Barcelona is the fact that they don't let 5 seconds go by without getting the ball back after they lose it. I mean, that's like the hardened rule. They have 5 seconds to bust their ass to get the ball back, and then they can take a break when they have the ball. And we do the exact opposite. And it's infuriating.
What we see is we always hear about, obviously, it's hard to bed in the kids because the pressure is under the manager and that kind of thing. Well, as I said, come next week, if we, let's say, I think we just need a point next week.
Yeah.
We get that point next week, then I think we've then got, four games after them. That's when you go and you print your kids. That's when you go, okay, exactly. This is show us now, show the fans now, that you've got what it takes to go on and submit even if it's maybe still fringe. I mean, we've got the boy Tajik from Sweden's been banging in the goals for reserves all season.
Yep.
Yeah, opportunity.
I'm dying to see him, come in, get a start. I mean, because every time you see, the replay of the reserves games, I mean, he's had overhead kicks, for goals. I mean, he always seems to be in the right area. I mean, he never stops running, and that's exactly what we need, at this moment. Unless Gary Hooper has an opportunity where the ball is played with a perfect weight right in front of his feet, with him and the goalkeeper, he can't be fucked with it. And and I'm sorry, but that's exactly the scenario that we're working with. It's no coincidence that when Stokes came on, there seemed to be more opportunities. Hooper doesn't work well without Stokes because Stokes does a lot of that creative hard work, tracking back, getting the ball. I mean, there were several situations where Stokes would, just appear out of the picture, out of nowhere, run, well past the halfway line, get the ball back, and then send it back. But the lack of effort, not even just in extra time. We could talk about the players being tired, but even in the second half, the lack of effort. I mean, Joe Ledley is, crossing the halfway line, and he's looking around. There's nobody there. I mean, half the team is walking back. For Dundee United's third goal. I mean, for me, it was. I'll highlight this, but there were several situations, and I'm going off on a tangent and a rant here, but Victor Wanyama had probably one of his worst games in a Celtic jersey. And Dundee United's third goal, I mean, where is our holding midfielder? I mean, he's essentially jogging back. Kelvin Wilson made an absolute mess of it, and we're outnumbered, and our holding midfielder is trailing behind the play.
Yeah, hence why possibly Lennox policy will take him off. Last point, obviously, I hate to hark on about it. I've got my wee one champing the door, and I need to go and get to him. But I hate to hark on about Hooper. I'm, as I say, he's infuriating me since the turn of the year. I think we've missed a trick in no selling Hooper, because if you look at Hooper's market value, I was very vocal on Twitter about it. If you look at Hooper's market value in January, and look at obviously maybe what Norwich are planning to put in, come the summer, Hooper now is in his last year's contract. I reckon we've probably missed. I think we've probably his value's probably dropped about £2.5 million.
I think you're right.
We're probably lucky if we get £5 million from now.
Yeah, I'd take $5 million in a heartbeat, definitely.
Did we keep him for the Juventus game? Is that what we kept him for?
I think so.
Did we think, oh, well, hold on a minute, you might be able to maybe give us a goal or two, put us through?
You know what? I'll hold my hands up and say that's exactly why I was lobbying to keep him. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the only logic that I can see from it.
I think we'll miss a trick. I think we should have got rid of him then, because again, then if we got rid of him, that then opens up the space for the likes of Tony Watt.
Yeah.
Put Stokes more on the team as well.
Yeah.
I think Stokes for most games since the turn of the year should be in that team far more than what Hooper was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying about Tony Watt, but Stokes for me is still ahead of Tony Watt. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for young boys coming through. I'd rather see us bringing through young boys like Tony Watt, putting Tony Watt in a position he can score against Barcelona, rather than actually having to spend millions on someone like Hooper, who, and no disrespect, he's done us a cracking turn, but I'd rather have Tony Watt in a position where he's a young boy, Celtic at heart, you know what I mean, and putting him in the limelight, rather than also having to go spend millions of pounds and putting someone else, you know what I mean. So, as I say, I think we'll miss a trick. I think we should have sold Hooper.
I think you're right.
If you look at his performances, I think his performances kind of highlight that and all.
Yeah, I think you're right. Kralski, thanks for calling in, pal.
Aye. All the best. Good show again, and I'll speak to you soon, okay, mate?
Cheers, pal. Hello.
All the best. Bye.
Kralski Donski. Maybe the best name on Twitter. If you want to get in touch, you can add us as a contact on Skype at Beyond the Waves, all one word. We're taking calls and just giving you a forum. You know, if you want to vent, or if you think that I'm talking rubbish, get in touch. Let me know what your thoughts were on the game today. Obviously, we had the very sad passing of Maggie Thatcher. So I want to know what steps you took, what sort of remembrance activities that you partaked in. Partook? What did you do this past week when you heard the news to remember? I know what I did. But now we are joined by the man himself. It sounds like he's in the car. If I had a wager, I'd say probably doing about 73 miles per hour with the sunroof cracked. It is the Rev. Hail, Rev.
Hell, no sunroof. You're close. I was doing about 80 or 130 kilometers, but hit a little bit of traffic by Tom's River, so I had to slow it down a bit.
They don't do kilometers in Scotland.
Oh, they don't do kilometers? All right, then, yeah, I was doing 80.
They don't do kilometers! Yeah, no. I got in the car over there, and I'm looking around. It's like, this is like, the exact same thing, just on the wrong side of the car.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic. So, what are you on, the Parkway?
Yeah, I'm on the Parkway. Should be home about a half hour or so.
Lovely stuff. Did you have an opportunity to watch the game today?
I did. I woke up a little late.
As you do.
By the time I got the stream going, I just turned it on for Wanyama's goal, so I got to see that.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I mean, you did a good explanation of the game so far. It wasn't pretty. We got the win. We're into the finals, so we can be happy about that. But if we didn't get that other goal, or we would have lost it in penalty kicks, we'd be saying,
oh dear,
totally different tuner.
Oh dear, it's Rev 3PO. It's Rev 2D2. You were giving me the Herbie Hancock there for a second. I think the connection's bad. So no, yeah, I got you. No problem. Here, let me ask you this before we lose you, because I need your expertise. over the entire spring, I mean, and based on what you've seen today and put it together in the entire context, what we've seen over this spring, I mean, this is nothing new, what we saw today. We were fortunate enough to be on the right side of the result today, but this had all the hallmarks of plenty of other shortcomings, especially at Hampden. But, I mean, we can look at essentially almost every game that we've played. Is Neil Lennon, is his hat on a shaky peg at this point? I mean, I've been a defender of his throughout. But you got to draw the line at some point and say, right, enough is enough. I mean, when does Neil Lennon cease to be a rookie manager anymore? When does he stop learning on the job and start to have to take accountability for some of these things? I mean, a lot of people on Twitter are sort of taking offense. You know, there's this worship of him where he is beyond critique. And everybody has their own different, you know, sort of critical mass. I've reached mine now. I think it's a situation where there isn't enough accountability with players. The players consistently come out with just a half of a heart in the game, essentially, continually playing players who've had their heads turned. When does enough become enough, and we start to ask questions about Neil Lennon and start to question his future?
I don't know. I think it's kind of reached that point for me too, but I would say, you know, in the league we do fine. I guess, you know, we do well enough. If you want to throw, you know, cup games and, you know, Hampden in a different category, because it seems like he learns from his mistakes in league games, and I guess you could say Champions League games as well, but it doesn't seem like he learns from his mistakes in domestic cup games. And why that is, if he's trying to be extra cautious and overthinks it, or actually, no, because then he doesn't learn from his mistakes, so he doesn't really think about it, I guess. I don't know. That's tricky. You know, why is it that when it comes to these league games, you know, we lose over the last 3 years, we lose 6 games at Hampden? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and especially considering there are familiar hallmarks every time we go to Hampden. You know, it seems as though we don't have any width whatsoever. I mean, Izagiri was far more active down that left-hand side, but I didn't think that he had his best game, and I think that, you know, there may be some damage there. I mean, Samaras had to play left back for much of the extra time period. Right. I mean, his hamstring looked like it's done. So I mean, there's an outside chance that we might be without him for the rest of the year. Obviously, that gives Charlie Mulgrew, you know, something to do in the meantime that doesn't involve the midfield. But once again, it's one-dimensional. You know, everything is through the middle. There's a complete lack of pressing, of trying to get the ball back after we lose it, and the defense is shaky. And, you know, when we do have opportunities, they're wasted. I mean, how many times do we you know, ratchet it off the woodwork, you know, send them balls, you know, into Rosette. I mean, it's just it's like a broken record, you know, over and over again. And I mean, for me, we were fortunate to get out of this with the result. And you know, yeah. I mentioned in the opening, if we would have lost this game, you know, we would have been critical on this team, and we won it by the slimmest of margins. So why should we forego the criticism when it's due? Right.
You know, kind of going back a little bit to what you said about Commons and Forrest and stuff. I agree. I don't like Commons. Forrest on the left. I mean, I guess they're, you know, interchanging behind Hooper and stuff. But I don't like seeing him on the left. I don't think he's effective. I'm not crazy about his left foot. But on the right, down the wing, I think he's brilliant. And why he, you know, changes, you know, or you know, why he will go and play kind of in the midfield behind Hooper. I mean, I know that's, you know, Neil Lennon picking the formation and shit, but you would think, and to the same extent, you know, this argument with Charlie Mulgrew, you know, if he's not doing what he's supposed to do when he's playing the midfield, for example, and he's just kind of standing around there with, you know, playing with the grass and stuff, then, you know, I don't see why players can say to the manager, hey, you know, I just don't think I'm good in this position. Do you think, you know, I should just stick where I'm best at? You know, you saw,
I don't think that's a conversation that's frequently had.
Yeah, but you know, like you saw once Mulgrew went to center back, he had a way better game. I mean, he still wasn't the best, but he played a lot better than he did. You
exactly.
know, the 90 plus minutes before that. So,
exactly right, and not a coincidence. Definitely well put.
Right. So why it comes down to, you know, this is just where they get put and they stick with it. I mean, obviously, the manager has the last word and everything like that, but you would think the players, and not be prima donnas and be like, oh, I'm not going to do my best, but if they know that's what they're not comfortable with, why they don't, and it's not like, we're spoiled, or we have a lot of suspensions and injuries, and you just kind of have to throw players in there to make up, a full side. But there's other players that can play there right now. So why he has to get stuck there and just kind of, lollygag the whole time, that doesn't make sense.
Well, I think, when you dig a little bit deeper, I mean, James Forrest, and I see where the idea comes from. James Forrest has been fantastic in that sort of floating role, not so much a number 10, but in that link-up facility, right. Taking it down the right and then cutting in just when he's in line with the top of the box and then distributing. I mean, he's been excellent with that in the absence of Commons. When Commons was injured or when he was out of favor, James Forrest slotted into that role quite well. But, when you have Commons on the park doing the exact same thing, essentially they cancel each other out. Right. So you have two players trying to facilitate one position, while then you have Charlie Mulgrew, who's not a midfielder, who's trying to slot in midfield, and what you wind up with is a completely incoherent shape. I mean, to call it to critique the shape is a bit sort of wayward because there wasn't any.
Yeah, it took me a while to watching the game to even understand and try to figure out what kind of formation they were playing, because I couldn't tell just by watching.
Yeah, and it wasn't also a coincidence that once Kyle comes in and the formation essentially had to change. I mean, Stokes comes in, so then you have, naturally you're going to have Stokes and Hooper up top, and sort of like a lopsided 4-4-2. Once you saw Forrest pegged to that right-hand side, we were far more effective. I mean, look at the goal that Stokes scored. That was from James, just being pegged to that right-hand flank and taking players on and stretching out the defense, opening up space in the middle for Stokes to go and infiltrate. That wasn't there in the first half, and it's simply because there was too much congestion through the center of the park, and that was really where our only ideas were.
Right. And I can get the mentality, to change up tactics, change up formation to kind of keep it fresh, keep the opponents guessing a little bit on, what you're going to do, what you're going to bring to the table for each particular game. But, if you have something that works, you stick with what works, because even if, defenders are, you got James on the right, you got defenders that no, all right, he's going to get the ball, he's going to race it down the flank. When he gets equal to the 18-yard line, then he's going to cross it in. But even if they know that's what's coming, if you're good enough at it, it will work. You'll still make the good cross. If he's having a good game and that's what's working, he'll make the good cross and he'll find somebody to connect and get the header in, or, whatever. But, I don't know. It's weird how, the quote-unquote Hampton curse, it's not really a curse, but I think, the players, or at least Lenny, kind of psychs himself out.
Oh, I agree. You know what? I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that there is a mental sort of there's an awareness there that I think affects Neil Lennon, to a certain extent, and it's carried over into the players. I mean, the fact that the club themselves are referring to it, talking about it, the Hampden hoodoo, you're seeing right. Tweets come out from the club. I mean, that carries over into the players to a certain point. I mean, even, if they say or consciously feel that it doesn't affect them, subconsciously it's there. It's in the back of their mind. I think we need to get beyond this and above it, because the reason why I'm so frustrated is because we are playing well below our potential. It would be one thing if this was as good as we are and that's it. Then it's, well, this is what we have. But, when you think back to, I liken this team to Mike Tyson fighting Buster Douglas every single week. When Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas, it was like, is that the same guy that knocked out Carl the Truth Williams or Michael Spinks in 30 seconds? It's like it has all the power. He has all the power that he always had, but he's just a basket case, unprepared, mentally just completely someplace else. And, just the shadow of his former self. That's what this team is, Right. It's like, did this team beat Barcelona? Did this team advance out of, maybe one of the tougher groups in the Champions League? It's like we have the potential to be so much better, and we're falling short for right. stupid reasons. That's why I'm frustrated. I'm not you know this. I'm not having a go, for the sake of. I'm not, consistent listeners to the show week after week know that I've been one of Neil Lennon's biggest defenders. But like I said, you reach a critical mass at some point, and I've reached mine, and it's time to start asking questions.
And it's not like the team itself historically with, the Hampden curse, how many cups has this team won? How many Scottish Cups? We've won the most Scottish Cups out of any other team, so it's not like the club itself really does have, like a Great Bambino curse or something like that. We can do it.
Great Bambino.
I gotta throw it.
Are you wearing PF flyers? Benny the Jet Rodriguez, ladies and gentlemen.
It's the club itself can do it if it's just right now. This little thing with Hampden that's only been the past couple seasons, and it's a completely manufactured mental psycho. That's it.
Yeah, and I think that it's the type of thing where we're going to have to go through a metamorphosis. I mean, Neil Lennon came in, when this team was, on the balls of its ass. I mean, he had a sort of a rehab job, if you will, to take it from the lowest of low. And he's done a fantastic job in a pragmatic way of getting Celtic back to, not just a respectable side, but at times an absolutely electric team to watch, capable of playing some absolutely sparkling football. But it's just a matter of, there's tactical adjustments and there's learning from mistakes, but then there's consistent sort of stubbornness. And that for me is unacceptable. That's the reason why I turned on Tony Mowbray, because week after week after week, and it was exemplified in his transfer policy, he was stubborn. He was going to play a particular way, and that's it, in spite of, whatever the results were. And I'm starting to notice a pattern here with Neil Lennon. Some of the comments that he makes after the games are just, he must be watching a completely different dimension than I am. I mean, he came out after the game today and said that the players played heroically. Do you feel as though the players played heroically, Rev?
No. I could say a couple guys at times, did, their what they had to do. I wouldn't say heroically. They did their jobs, at times. But to put it in that, that train of thought, to think they played heroically. Heroically would be, Hampden in the Sun, or some a game that's deserving of being sung in a song. Generations.
You know what heroically for me was? Not even the win over Barcelona, because I think that situation is just overblown to a certain extent. Not to take anything away from it, but we just always talk about it. For me, when I think of heroic, I think of the game that we lost at the Camp Nou. Where it was 1-1 until like the last 20 seconds, and every player on that park busted their ass the whole time. Nobody shut off for the entire 94 minutes. And I'm wondering where that team is right now. And to label that performance today as heroic is a disservice, and it's disrespectful to the team that did that against Barcelona, not 6 months ago, and the effort that they put out. I mean, throwing around that term heroically and showering all sorts of praise cheapens what they did, in my opinion.
I mean, I get the manager has to come out and talk positively about his team, and that's what he has to do to the media. But there's definitely a line with certain words that should be used and not to be used at a time like that.
They were shite. Well, fantastic statistics that you've brought us today, Rev. Here's this statistic for you that I'm sure that we'll be talking about over the next several weeks. No team has ever lost 2 Scottish Cup finals in a row. And I'm talking about Hibs. Oh. So we got that going for us.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for checking in. I'll let you get back to your driving. When you're driving at 80 to 85 miles an hour on the Parkway, you should probably have both hands. But thank you for calling in, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, I'll give you a holler when I get home.
Fantastic stuff. We'll talk to you soon.
Later.
There's the Rev checking in from the Garden State Parkway in the Garden State of New Jersey. Lovely place. I kid, New Jersey. No, that's my take. I mean, it's embarrassing for me. And you know what? I'm sure there's going to be loads of folks that listen back to this or are listening now and are going to send tweets and say, awfully harsh. We won the game. What do you expect? You're not going to be happy no matter what. That's completely not true. Completely not true. If we would have lost this game, I would have been just as critical, if not more. But just because, Anthony Stokes puts in an effort right there at the end, that doesn't absolve, all of the shortcomings. There is a pattern here. And nobody is above critique. Nobody. I love Neil Lennon, but I tweeted this just before we came on. I love Neil Lennon, but I love Celtic more. And in that context, nobody or nothing is above critique. There are sycophants outside of Ibrox who deified and found, the people who were in charge of their club to be beyond any sort of rebuke or critique. And look where it got them. Now, I'm not saying that, Neil Lennon is going to bankrupt the club. I had a couple people get in touch saying, you're comparing Lennon to David Murray. Calm down, okay? Put your trousers back on. It's a little bit more high-minded than that, so I'll say it slowly, okay? No one is above rebuke. That's the point here. And for me, I find it worrying that we're starting to see a pattern where the same rhythm, the same mistakes, the same personnel are being put out. And Neil Lennon himself has even mentioned, certain players are letting him down and they really got to prove themselves. And then the next game, the same players are playing and have played continuously since. So I don't understand where the accountability is. It's very inconsistent. It seems completely dependent on the result and nothing really changes. So that's just my take. That's my opinion. I have a microphone. This is my show. But you're welcome to call in and share your opinion, and I promise I'll let you have it. So one person doing that right now is the great Snake Plissken, calling all the way from Slovakia. Snake, hail. Thanks for calling in, pal.
Hi, man. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm getting there. I'm sort of, I'm giving myself a shake. I'm getting the cobwebs off. It's a bit early to get up and start. It started off so good. Commons puts the goal in. It's like, all right, we're gonna bury this mob. And then, as the game went on, it's like, here we go again. I can't believe this is happening again. I'm just trying to make sense of it. What did you see from this game? What were your impressions coming out of here? Obviously delighted that we got through. We're in the Cup final, and certainly, I'm looking forward to that. Very confident. I'm desperate to have us do the double, but I'm left with questions. What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought we started the game very, very well. Obviously, goal aside, I thought we were playing very well, and I thought that the turning point of the game was when Lustig hit the post from like 3 yards out.
Yeah.
If he gets that second goal, then Dundee United are not going to get one goal, in my opinion.
No, it's done.
But that to me was like the carbon copy of the games previously.
Yes, exactly.
Last year when we played Hearts, he hit the post twice when it was easier to score. And I was like, oh, no, again. And I just knew the minute he hit the post with that header, when it was easier to score, I said, United are going to go up the park and get a goal. They're nothing here. And they did. And then they got a second goal. Second goal they got, I thought was a good goal, to be perfectly honest. But thank God Victor got the goal as quickly back as what he did, because if that had gone for 10 minutes, I think it would have been a different result today, Agreed.
Yeah, that it's the type of thing where too much time goes by, the heads start to drop, and then we start to press, and we get even more discombobulated with it. I think it steadied the nerves. It allowed us to go in at halftime and sort of regroup. I was hoping that maybe some changes were going to be made, especially in formation. I thought that as the game progressed, that formation grew a bit stale. Time after time, you'd see either Mulgrew going up the left-hand side, trying to link up with Izagiri, and there was just absolutely no outlet. Gary Hooper, back to goal, top of the 18-yard box, just standing there. Never. And it wasn't just him. Even Commons in certain situations, and Ledley was trying to track up there. no one ever looked even interested in trying to peel off a defender, trying to make a run. And, what winds up happening is switch the ball over to the right, switch the ball back over, lateral passes, backward passes. And in the interim, Dundee United are seeing this, and they're pressing the hell out of us.
Dundee United are good at that.
Yeah.
And to be fair to Dundee United and Jackie McNamara, him and his players, they wanted to win that game with it.
No question.
So, you've got to give them credit the way they played.
No question.
A lot of teams could have just chucked it.
No question. No question about it. I'm full credit to Dundee United. I mean, I thought that in the middle of the park, they were far more the hungrier of the sides. And, for putting out the young boy Gold, who, looks like he's got a bit of talent. Gary Mackay-Steven, I mean, let's keep in mind they were missing Johnny Russell. I mean, one of the sort of cogs in their attack there. I mean, John Daly tends to be a bit more one-dimensional, but he's always dangerous. But I'm at the point now where, I mean, comparatively speaking, I'm tired of congratulating other teams for, just showing up and putting out an effort. I mean, let's think about, and I agree with what you said, but let's think about what you said and what we're talking about here. We are congratulating a side for wanting to win. Well, shouldn't our side want to win? I'm tired of congratulating another team showing up and being hungry and taking advantage of our lack of enthusiasm and then saying this is great for Scottish football, isn't it? I'm tired of it.
I know where you're coming from. I think there's a lot to be said in that. I think that the very least we want is our team to be as hungry as the other team. So that's the most disappointing aspect of watching Celtic at the moment. There has been a malaise about the way Celtic's played since the January transfer window. Some players, it may be now, I think, either are going to move on, should move on, or must be moved on. And the team needs to be reconstructed for next season.
Agreed.
The thing that Gordon Strachan was very, very good at as Celtic manager was recognising when a player had given all he can give and then change the team. And he would talk about Team 1 and Team 2 and Team 3. Neil Lennon, for me, has this similarity to Martin O'Neill, whereas he'll pick the same players every week until they run themselves into the ground. And I don't think that's good for the team. And I think that it's time that some players, we say thank you very much for what you've done for us. You've been brilliant. You've given us some great moments. But if you guys don't want to show what we want you to show on a weekly basis, well, count on one hand how many players have left this club and done better. There's the door, We'll get some money, we'll reinvest, and we'll bring through the next crop.
Yep, very good point. Very good point. Now, let me ask you this. I mean, this is something we touched on a bit early on. For me, if Dundee United plays the way they did today, and this is my tribute to them, if they played the way they did today, we will win the league before we even kick a ball next week. With that being said, what do we need to be doing in these SPL ties? I mean, Neil Lennon's even talked about it, where these qualifiers for the Champions League are coming earlier and earlier, so that the players are having a much shorter break, to sort of recharge, to get their wounds healed up and things of that nature, get their minds, right. What do we need to do in that interim where, we have these SPL games that, are essentially meaningless, leading up to the Cup final? I mean, this is the perfect opportunity to bring in some of these youngsters. I mean, we talked about Rogic. We don't know what we have with Gershon. Tony Watt, obviously, from my opinion, I'm just at a loss as to how he's not playing more consistently. What would you like to see in that sort of interim window period?
Well, I think the guys who let's be fair to the guys that have done the business this season, the Hoopers and Wanyamas and all these guys. We now know that Wanyama is not going to play in the Cup final, and neither is Kyle. So they're as well playing in the last few games, because they're we're as well keeping those two in the team or in and around the team. But beside them, we've got to bring through some of the guys that are just champing at the bit to go and actually show a bit more.
Yes.
We've seen in glimpses Tony Watt. We've seen Dylan McGeoch. We've seen Twardzik, we've seen, Jackson Irvin for a game, young Chalmers. These guys need to come on now and give us a bit more, and we'll see what they're made of. Because, to be honest, the season is now going to peter out until the Cup final. One way or another, we'll be champions, either next weekend on Friday or on Saturday or at the very worst the following weekend. The games are running out. It doesn't matter. There's going to be a malaise around a lot of our games. And in a funny way, I'm quite glad we only do have 2 home games. Because if this is the big one, it will probably be a full house. If the last game against St Johnstone is the day we get the cup, we'll probably get a big crowd that day as well. But aside from crowds, what we need now, for me, is just to give the young guys a chance. Neil Lennon wanted to rest players because he talked about the Champions League. Now, for me, the Champions League next season is the be-all and end-all.
No question.
We have to hit the ground running in the first qualifiers in the middle of July. Now, fortunately, we're probably going to be seeded for the first 2 or 3. We're going to be seeded for all the rounds, I think.
Yeah.
Provided we make progress. But the teams that we're going to play in the first round potentially could be some far, far flung place like Kazakhstan.
Or it could be one of the Scandinavian countries who are in the middle of their season.
Well, yeah, and that's in its own way quite tricky as well.
Of course.
It could even be some of the bloody Slovak team.
Come on, Lubo, do us a turn.
No, it's Slovan Bratislava that's winning the league this year.
Oh, okay.
And I don't like them. And it would mean having to go to Bratislava, which I don't like doing, to be perfectly honest with you. Much rather get somebody in a nicer place to visit, to be honest. But that's just me. But the point is that whatever's going to happen, if there's players going to leave, they need to be out the door from the day the transfer window opens. First day. None of this, we're going to hang on, we'll see how much we're going to get. No, if you're not signing a contract, you're out the door within 2 weeks max. And whatever players are coming in for Celtic, and there need to be new players, whoever's coming in, that needs to be done by the very latest, the end of June. But these guys, they're going to only have a couple of weeks if we get them by the end of June to be used to their new teammates.
It's a tricky situation.
It's a rotten situation.
Yeah.
And the point is that we're going to have to do this ASAP, you know?
Well, and I think, what further sort of solidifies and proves your point, I mean, specific, I know I'm really just sort of harping on Hooper at this point, but it's not without merit. Hooper is gone. His head's turned. Obviously, he has different plans for his future. But the proof in the fact that we need to get him gone before we play in these qualifiers, I think it was exemplified today and has been exemplified since the end of January. We don't want a Hooper who is not fully committed. I mean, think about it from his perspective. Are you going to go out there and bust it and risk injuring yourself and missing out on that move to England for a team that you're not going to play for in maybe several weeks' time? Probably not. So I mean, there's going to be loads of people saying, well, he scores all these goals and he's been brilliant for us and he's our best striker. Well, yeah, but you're missing the context of the mentality, which especially for a striker is absolutely vital.
Yeah, the thing is, the first 2 qualifiers are must win.
No question.
Absolutely must win, because if you lose them, you're out altogether, and that's it.
Yeah,
there's no way around that.
And if you think that the attendances were poor this season, oh Jesus, it's a frightening proposition. No question.
The very least we need is into that second qualifying round, and then if we get through that, we're into the playoff round. The very worst case scenario is getting towards the Europa League. Very worst case scenario.
Agreed.
You never know what you're going to get with a draw, but you've got to get through this first couple of qualifiers. This is bigger than Barcelona for me.
Agreed.
And it's something that we all need, the Celtic supporters. We need the European football because it's what makes everybody excited. It's what gets the fans up. It's the most exciting thing. Now today, I'm sorry that there weren't as many people as what we could have had in the stadium. But I tell you what, the people who did pay for that, they get value for money. But you don't get that every week in Scotland.
No.
And that's the problem. That's the biggest problem. Because everybody knows Celtic are going to win the league this year. And they know they're going to win the league next year as well. So there's an apathy amongst people. Because they just think, I can pick and choose. Or I've not got the money. Or whatever the reason would be. Plus, sometimes the games are beyond relaxing, shall we say?
Yeah, I think we can all identify with that at this point. No question.
Some of the games are so comatose that no wonder people don't want to watch it. So there's all of that in the mix. Neil Lennon's biggest challenge, I mean, whatever happens in the Scottish Cup final happens. A part of me has said, you know, if Hibs won it, I'm not going to get too upset, because if we'd gone 111 years without winning the Cup and eventually won it, you know, I think we can maybe give them that one. I'd rather we won, but part of me thinks, well, sharing the honours around, that would be 2 seasons in a row where a different team has won all 3 competitions. Now that is good for the game. And I have no problem with it being good for the game. I don't like it being good for the game at our expense, but that's just, you got to accept that sometimes in football. But for me, if we win the Scottish Cup, fantastic. If not, we'll be disappointed, but we've got to move on. Because if these players, as you say, if their heads are somewhere else, some of them, not all of them, but if some of their heads are elsewhere, then there's not a lot we're going to have to do about that. It's whatever's going to happen is going to happen with them. So if they want to go out and prove one last time, this is me, I'm going to get my big move, I'm going to show everybody how I can play. If half of them showed the effort Chris Commons did today, then we have nothing to worry about, in my opinion. But if not, the whole thing is get your business done pronto, as soon as that cup final's done. Get anybody signed up that needs signed up, get anybody moved out the door as fast as possible if they're not going to commit, and get a new team together, get them playing pre-season and get them ready for that first qualifier in the middle of July. I believe it's the 16th of July, I believe. I don't know.
Be here before you know it.
Well, and I'm bloody working that week, so I can assure you I'll be having to be very careful about what I'm doing that week. So...
Well, fantastic point there, Snake. Before we let you go, one quick question. We talked about this briefly a bit earlier about who the player of the year is going to be at this point. I think Chris Commons has made a late case for himself, to be mentioned in that conversation. I would actually put him at the front of the list at this point in terms of who the player of the year is going to be this season. What are your thoughts there? Who's your player of the year?
Well, I think that most improved player from last season to this is Kelvin Wilson.
No question. I mean, I would definitely put Kelvin Wilson in there with honorable mention to Lustig. I mean, I think Lustig definitely needs to be in that conversation. But
if Lustig had been fit all year, I think he'd have been a shoo-in.
True. Yep. Yeah. No, you're right.
So it would be, for me, them. You could argue the goalkeeper, but the goalkeeper hasn't been as hot since the new year.
You know what? I think that he was really on the upswing by this point last year. It really kicked off for me. His ascent began with that penalty save against Hearts. After that, I mean, his confidence just skyrocketed, and we really started to see the best out of him. Unfortunately, since he's come back from injury in January, he's really been off the boil somewhat. But yeah, I definitely take your point there.
There's even an argument for Samaras, because without Samaras, we wouldn't have been in the Champions League and done as well as we did without him.
You know what? He gets overlooked, but that's a fair point. He has been there in several huge games. I mean, some of the goals. I mean, the Spartak Moscow game away.
Oh yeah, and the games in Helsinki and the games in Sweden. He was brilliant in those games.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, he needs to be in there.
5 goals away from home consecutively. I don't think any other Celtic player's done that in God knows how many years.
You make a compelling case.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we should all be happy. We've got the cup final to look forward to. If we finish the season with a double and the flourish, I would say it's been a fantastic season.
I would agree.
Over the whole season. We want bigger, more exciting, convincing wins, but I tell you what, man, I watched both those cup semis this week, and I thoroughly enjoyed both of them in terms of the drama and the intrigue involved in it. So I don't think the game's dead in Scotland at all. I think it's becoming more interesting, and I think that I know we get more annoyed because our players are better than everybody else's, and they're stronger and they're faster, they're supposedly anyway, but I think sometimes we do need to say, we've sat for years saying, it's too easy, these teams they're no match for us, and they don't try hard enough, and they just put everybody behind the ball. Then when they do have a go at us, we've got guys saying, well, we should be running over the top of these teams. So it's kind of like, you can't win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's an interesting conundrum. You know, at the end of the day, we got through, and that's all that matters. I mean, you know, some worrying signs. And
one more good thing happened today.
Go ahead.
Alan Pardew's team get pumped.
I did see that. I saw Paolo Di Canio absolutely lost his mind.
I'm not a big lover of Di Canio, but to be honest, laughing at Pardew is always funny.
Agreed. You know, it is a sorry state, you know that you find yourself in when people are siding with the guy who has a tattoo of Mussolini on his chest over you. Alan Pardew, hang your head.
That's a royal beating, actually, that one.
Away from home, no less.
I know.
You know what? I'm not I mean, to say that I'm not a lover of Di Canio is probably an understatement, but some of his interviews are absolute classics.
I haven't watched an awful lot of the guy as a manager. I haven't paid a lot of attention to him since he left Celtic, to be honest. But I'm not interested in him. I've had friends that were Sunderland supporters and they really didn't like Newcastle very much. And also,
naturally.
like, Pardew's comments about Celtic and Scottish football, to me, nah.
Yeah.
I'm not having anything to do with him.
No, I agree. For the exact same reasons, absolutely. He's an arrogant prick of a man, no question.
Well, there you go.
Snake, thanks so much for calling in, pal. All the best.
No problem at all, man. Everybody take care. I'll see you all soon, okay?
Cheers. Hello.
Bye-bye. Yo.
Snake Plissken getting in touch. Good points there. You know, we always forget about Sammy, you know, in that conversation for Player of the Year, but he has been an integral part of the team and has had some fantastic moments this season, certainly not to be overlooked. Several players that you could really make the case for. Ledley, you know, Wanyama, I think to a certain extent, although he's been off the boil for you know, the interim sort of period of time. Kralski's getting back in touch, and I think this is a good point. He mentions, you know, the sign of a good manager. Talking about, you know, our analysis of Neil Lennon, a good manager is able to turn over a squad. You know, that's what's needed, and Fergie, you know, is a good example of that. I completely agree. I mean, you look at Ferguson, you know, he'll sit Wayne Rooney for weeks at a time. He'll sit, you know, Robin Van Persie. I mean, world-class players to get some turnover, to you know, try and get some freshness into the squad, rest players where it's appropriate, and trying to add to the longevity and also the hunger. I mean, you know, you think the players don't have to fight for their place to get into a Manchester United side? I mean, players like Mulgrew, I mean, he knows exactly where he's going to play and when every week. You know, he's not going to be dropped. And same with Gary Hooper. And, you know, a lot of the accountability that Neil Lennon has come out and said that he was going to instill hasn't been followed through on. But we are now joined by Kyle from Dublin. Hail, Kyle. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Graham. What's going on?
Wait, you don't sound like you're from Dublin.
I'm from the Dublin in Pennsylvania.
The Pennsylvania Dublin.
Yeah, the Pennsylvania Dublin.
Very nice, very nice. The best Dublin there is. The best Dublin there is. There's no Jack Ian's in Dublin, Pennsylvania.
Nah.
Oh, I kid Deco. I kid him. How you doing, pal?
Recovering.
Now, where did you watch the game today? Was it Basement CSC? Did you go down to the Abbey? Where did you see it?
I caught the tail end of it on a stream. I surfed the net and tried finding a spot.
A very legal stream, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Legal. Yeah. Fantastic. So, are you as sort of? I don't want to use the word dejected, but I mean, do you have? What are your thoughts after watching this game today, and especially watching the product that was on display in extra time? I mean, I labeled it like it was like watching, you know, like Airplane 2. And it was like watching like a Naked Gun movie. I mean, I was almost surprised that when Samaras took a throw in, he didn't turn around and throw it at one of the guys in the wheelchairs.
It's frustrating. You really want to see the hunger, and it doesn't seem like too many of the guys are really showing that. I obviously, being a huge Tony Watt fan, would have loved to have seen him come in, provide some energy.
Oh yeah, you have the jersey.
I do. 2 actually.
Oh yeah, that's right, 2 of them. Look at you. You're a super fan.
Hey, what can I say? The kid's got spunk.
Oh Jesus.
But you know, a win's a win, and I really would like to see more fire from the team. But you know, a win's a win.
Other than Tony Watt, who are you looking forward to coming back into the side? I mean, I'd like to see James Forrest maybe get a run of games. He's been in and out of the side with one injury or another throughout, but I'd like to get him, maybe not playing him 90 minutes every week, but at least getting him some playing time to get his fitness back up. Obviously, as we've talked about, the qualifiers for the Champions League are going to be close upon us, in the not too distant future. I mean, maybe a month and a half after the Scottish Cup final. So I think getting him back into form and back into fitness is imperative. But other than that, I mean, who do you want to see get a rest? And then who do you want to see get into this side who, we haven't seen enough of and, who really deserves that spot, who's going to show that hunger?
Well, it's a tough call. I guess I would. I want Lenny to play Hooper as much as possible, so that Hooper can get sold in the summer, possibly to some low-rate EPL team. That way, it makes room for Watt. Once again, being Watt's superfan number one. But just let the kids play. Yeah, like you said, Forrest, give the kids a run. Let the, I guess you would say, regulars get a little bit of a rest and nurse up the injuries, so that when it comes time for Champions League qualifications, you can play those guys and you can play them with the confidence to know that they've had enough time to recuperate. Honestly, the teams that scare me the most in Champions League qualifiers are the Scandinavian teams or the other teams that have been in mid-season form.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because especially if you're going to be coming off, who knows? Celtic hasn't announced any of their summer friendlies yet, so far as I know, right?
I think we're August 10th in Dublin, not Pennsylvania. The one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
the one with all the check-ins. Yeah.
Only I could go. But
let me put you on the spot. No, you're not getting away from that. Let me. you being of the Scouser persuasion, you don't sound like a Scouser either. We're playing that friendly. What jersey are you wearing? And don't even give me this. I'm not wearing either. You got to pick. You got to pick. Which one are you going to wear? Don't even lie like you do a lot. If it's Liverpool, just say Liverpool.
Which one am I going to wear?
Don't make me hang up on you.
I'm sorry. I got to wear my old Gerard. The dude's just a legend, man. I'm sorry. But I will be wearing and putting it right side up my Celtic just can't get enough scarf. I'll make sure that when I get
you can
on
put
TV,
it right side up, where.
I'll make sure I'll make sure when I have it actually on TV again, I'll have it right side up and not upside down like when we played Madrid. It's terrible. Embarrassed. International television, I have the scarf upside down.
You have bigger and more pressing problems than having your scarf upside down, my friend.
Yeah, I know. I need to lose weight. I need to get a new face.
No, you just got a yellow card for the mentioning you'd wear the Gerard jersey. I mean, you should see the chat room.
I know. I'm probably getting killed right now.
Off with his head. Off with his head.
Yeah, next caller.
Kyle, tell us. I've wanted to have you on for a few weeks, and then I'm gonna hang up on you.
That's fine.
Tell us about because we've had conversations on Twitter, and I think this is an important issue as Celtic, not just the team, and that's really where our focus is today, but also the club and their relationship with the supporters, what they offer the supporters. You've been obviously a supporter of the Philadelphia Union, of the MLS generally, and you have contact with a lot of the resources that American sports have, i.e. internet feeds, so that if you're away from home, you can get on the internet, you can with your iPad, your iPhone, or your laptop, you can get any of the games.
You can access all with MLS Live.
Tell us about what MLS Live is, how much you pay, what you get, and what the quality is. Just to give us a sort of a sense for some folks that are overseas. Because I think this is really what Celtic needs to strive for. This is what we should attain to offer. If we're going to be, I use this analogy over and over again. If Peter Lowell wants to say that we're at the big table with the Barcelonas, the Man U's, the AC Milans, the Bayern Munichs, etc., we need to act like it. So tell us, what we get over here and what Celtic needs to attain to.
Okay. MLS Live is, just like Graham said, it's a streaming service. It can be accessed on the PC, Mac, iOS, and Android. and you can access any game that is not currently nationally televised through any of those mediums, and you can access it immediately after the game and view a full replay. Like right now, I'm watching Montreal and Columbus, and Stadio Saputo looks terrible.
You're watching it on your laptop, right?
I have it on my PC right now.
Okay, so you're watching on your PC.
It into my television very shortly.
So you're watching on your PC. You can connect it to the television. Obviously,
it's an HD feed.
What's the picture quality like? I mean, it's when you hook it up to your television. Can you tell? I mean, if you walked out of the room and then walked in, would it be obvious that you're not watching the television feed?
No, it's in full 720.
Now, how does that compare with some of the Celtic TV and some of the qualities of that stream? I mean, so how does it compare to you?
How does it compare? I have to say MLS TV is just lights and years beyond what Celtic TV offers in not only stream quality. The MLS Live doesn't sputter. It doesn't cut out. It doesn't constantly replay itself. We at the bar at the Iron Abbey where I go, we had it hooked in, laptop hooked in, brand new laptop hooked in with HDMI and directly into an internet feed, not even wireless, and it was cutting out, and we'd have to try and catch 3 or 4 mirrors to try and at least get some sort of semblance of the game. And it's something that I think that also, I mean, MLS Live, I have access to every single game played throughout the entire year, and all of them that are live right now, and it's only $60 for the entire year.
So it's $60. That's it. You're done for the entire season, and we pay $30 a month for Celtic TV. That sputters and buffers, and the picture quality is atrocious.
I mean, Graham, you think? I mean, you were able to watch the Union while I was at the game, and of course see me on television because that's all place I am in. But I mean, what do you think of the product as compared to Celtic TV?
It doesn't. I mean, all the questions that I just asked you, I asked because that's how I feel. When I hook, and it's not just MLS. I mean, Major League Baseball. I'm an alien. I'm in enemy territory. I'm not watching this Nationals rubbish. I need to watch the Phillies.
Attitude?
Very nice. So I can watch these games on my iPad. I can walk around my house and have my iPad with me and watch the game. Celtic TV not available on iPad. The picture quality is I mean, this is an opportunity that's slipping through their fingers where, and it's the mentality. There was a huge move forward maybe 2 seasons ago when Celtic TV sort of upgraded and the picture quality did get better. It's a complete lack of awareness of how technology works. It's almost like the mentality was, okay, great, we got you the better quality picture. Now leave us alone. We're done with it. Instead of, in the interest of serving the supporters and as they view us, the customers, and continually giving us reasons to renew our subscription by improving the quality of the feed, they just leave it where it is. And then when we complain about it, it's like, God, all you ever do is complain.
Now let me ask you, Graham. The MLS Live, the one thing I think they may have an advantage over are most of the games that are on Celtic TV, are they broadcast on television as well, or is it exclusive? Not only, obviously over here we wouldn't be able to get them, but overseas, is it exclusive to Celtic TV, such as the Cup game today?
No. Well, obviously if you're not in Scotland or the UK or sometimes in Ireland, you don't have access to those TV feeds, but it varies. There isn't any consistency. So sometimes, well, first off, people in the UK and Ireland can't access Celtic TV. It's almost like it's almost like the blackout laws, where they don't want to provide that service so that if people have that ability, they won't turn up to the game.
Because I have to say, the advantage that MLS Live has is right now I am watching MLS Live on stream. But the stream is of TSN from Canada.
Oh, really? Really? I thought you'd be watching Liverpool replays.
No. Drew yesterday. It wasn't too good. And now that I think about it, in all honesty, if I was slim enough to be able to fit into the Tony Watt that I got directly from Celtic Park, I would definitely wear that.
Oh, trying to save yourself. Okay, just the talking to. Yellow card rescinded.
Yeah, dude, it's got the respect badge on the arm. It's awesome.
You're only half a Scouser.
No, but it's
I love the
it's
Scousers.
something that I would love to. I would love to see a better streaming service from Celtic in the fact something similar to MLS Live, or at least give a flat rate option.
Yeah.
So that because $30 a month is
it's ridiculous for what
out of my
exactly
out of my range.
Exactly for what we get from it. It's ridiculous. I mean, it would be one thing. I mean, theoretically, if we got all SPL games, this is what I've been calling for years. The SPL needs to get together and license it out as a package. They would be able to get more people to subscribe to the service, thereby increasing the amount of revenue, and they'd be able to drop the amount that they'd charge. So that would further get more people to subscribe.
They have such an opportunity in the Americas for growth in the club. It's just money waiting to be given to them.
Yeah.
And
it's exactly what I've pointed out repeatedly, and I said this to Peter Lawwell. I said there are tons of people in this country that want to give you money, but you need to make it easier for us.
Yeah.
I have yet to see it.
All right, Graham.
Kyle, listen, you'll never walk alone, and have fun with your Scousers.
Hey,
and,
you give me a call sometime. We'll go golfing, and I'll whoop your ass in that too.
Fantastic stuff. Good call, pal.
Take it easy, buddy.
See ya.
Bye.
That's Kyle calling it from Dublin, not the one with the Jack Eanes. Sorry, Deco. We're now joined by Brendan Tian. Brendan, hail. Thanks for calling in. Well, Brendan, you there? No, Brendan? All right, we'll try and get Brendan back. Had the Rev trying to call in, got Stephen Brand trying to call in, all at the same time. Let's get the Rev. Hi, Rev.
Hi.
Did you make it home?
I am home.
Fantastic. You just missed the conversation with the Scouser.
No, I was listening. I heard it.
Oh, he wasn't actually a Scouser. He's a wannabe Scouser. Why would you come on a Celtic show and say you're going to wear a Steven Gerrard jersey instead of a Celtic jersey?
Hey, even I said that if Celtic ever plays the Red Bulls, I'm going to go with Celtic.
That's because you knew you'd get banned if you said otherwise. Don't even lie like you do a lot. You knew that was coming.
No, I'm being honest. That had nothing to do with it.
I believe you.
Was my reception really that bad? I saw the blame Graham for my poor reception messages. You
sounded like a Herbie Hancock song. I'm not gonna lie, but a little Max Headroom. But no, you're crystal clear now. So welcome.
That's the Wi-Fi's.
That's the Wi-Fi's. Yes, fantastic stuff. So I haven't caught up with you this week. What did you do to remember the life of Margaret Thatcher this week? Do share.
I woke up. I wasn't feeling too well last week, and so I woke up kind of late on Monday, and I had a couple texts from random people saying congratulations, like at 8, 9 in the morning. I'm like, all right, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay. And this was about 12:30 or so, and first thing I do, I come to and I start checking Twitter and stuff, and I see one random tweet out of nowhere saying that she's dead, and I'm like, wait, what? So then I, did the Googles and all that, and sure enough, so I sprung out of bed. My day was instantly better. I didn't feel sick anymore. It was just a bright, sunny day. I went downstairs, prepped up a little, some Jell-O, some jelly, and ran out to ShopRite and got myself some ice cream and had a good dinner.
Now, you do know that Margaret Thatcher invented soft-serve ice cream, right?
Oh?
I'm not kidding.
Oh, really?
Margaret Thatcher was a chemist, and she invented soft-serve ice cream.
Well, I had,
That's what the wikis are. You can get them on the Wi-Fi's.
Ah.
But I think that she had no part in Turkey Hill, so
there you go.
On you go.
No, I know I tweeted this that day, but I wanted to reiterate it, and have it on, permanent voice record for all posterity. So, we over here did the jelly and ice cream in solidarity with everyone over there. So in about 15, 20 years' time, when Bush dies, it's going to be ice cream and cupcakes. So I invite everyone over there to go to their local bakery or wherever and grab some cupcakes when Bush dies.
Lovely stuff. It's something to look forward to. Great.
Always thinking ahead, you know.
You're a visionary. Good stuff. So, obviously delighted with the Red Bulls result.
Oh yeah. This was a pretty good weekend for me.
Yeah. Taking out DC United, who've managed to have 14 shots on goal all season. Yay. Wow. Quite underwhelming.
And, you know, being them away helps too, but, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you play in a glorified cave that is RFK Stadium. Right. Well, we also had some developments this week on the Craigie White front.
Yes, indeed.
What did you make of this? I mean, you know, you obviously had the jelly and ice cream. Was this a bit of foreshadowing? Did you see all this developing?
No. I mean, I guess a little bit to an extent, but not. I haven't delved into the complete story I didn't listen to the recordings. I just kind of, you know, read just descriptions about them. But
well, then allow me to retort. I mean, it was all going to turn into a big shit sandwich anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, no, I heard that, you know, the couple inklings of, Charles Green going on TV and dropping the
Google Eye
stuff. And, but no, it you know, this is, I guess, you know, where he's got the recordings of all the conversations and shit.
Yeah, if you didn't think that those two were in cahoots to rip off the club, well, think again.
Surprise.
And yet, there are still some of those who are still deluded into thinking that Craig White's the one to blame. Well, you know, we come to find out this week that there are all sorts of documents linking Craig White with, or should we call him Google Eye, with the bold, the brave Charles Green. And, you know, this was all linked up prior to Duff and Phelps selling the assets of the club to Sevco 5088. So Craig White essentially was the director of 5088, even though Charles Green had denied that to the Gills, that he had nothing to do with 5088. Then recordings came out that Craig White had made with Charles Green saying, "You are Sevco." Interesting. Okay. So then Charles Green denies it. The recordings come out. Then Charles Green says, right, I lied. So I lied about not having him part of Sevco. Plus I lied to him because we needed to be sweet to him in order to get him to do what we wanted. But trust me, I'm a really good guy. Yeah. And the Scottish mainstream media just ate it up.
And, you know, they did this... none of this was done to benefit themselves in a sporting aspect.
No, there wasn't any sporting advantage intended.
Not at all.
Of course not. So, essentially what this means is, Craig White has been a director of a Scottish football club while being banned for the past, year, almost.
Just about?
Yeah, so we obviously saw the spin job that the Keystone Cops at Hampden put together to get that shower of filth out of it last year. It's going to be very interesting watching how they spin their way out of this. But we've been told by several sources that shares of the Rangers Football Club Limited have been suspended or will be suspended first thing tomorrow morning. And they've essentially lost £3.4 million, I believe the figure is, in value since Thursday. So for a club that is essentially...
I'm surprised they even had that much value to begin with, to be honest.
Good point. Well, they did raise $22 million in their share issue of last December, which is about to be deemed illegal because it was done
right.
You know, by parties of an ill repute, we'll just say. So once that's negated, lawyers are going to pick over this, and it's going to be a mess. So
can I say this is going to be a succulent dinner?
Succulent jelly and ice cream once again. Who knew? You know what? I saved the box of Jell-O just in case. So I'm glad that I did that. Not as if, I couldn't go up to my local Safeway and get another thing of Jell-O, but, well, I have to have the yellow stuff on hand anyway for my colonoscopies, as you know. But, I might have to make some jelly here very shortly.
Now, what about all their deals and admonishing the dead or playing down the dead or whatever?
Dirty deeds done too cheap, yeah.
Does that now become invalid? Like, are they going to have to go back and still owe Ticketus $17 million?
Well, you would think that.
Well, yeah.
And
I shouldn't use common sense, I know.
And I would think that. But it remains to be seen what the final conclusion is. Because if we've learned anything over the past year and a half, it is common sense does not rule the day. And whatever means need to be taken that are necessary to sustain them will be taken. But to your point, a court has ruled in favor of Ticketus, where Craig White is charged with a £17 million bill that he is going to need to pay to Ticketus, which means, in a mentality standpoint, Craig White is desperate at this point. He's desperate to get whatever he possibly can in terms of financial resources, assets, etc., in order to pay that off, because he is now legally bound to do so. Where is he going to get the assets? Oh, I know. There's a big stadium in Govan, which is certainly worth more than £5.5 million, wouldn't you say, Rev?
Well, it's a 5-star UEFA stadium, so I've been told.
Very good point. So, that would be a good place to start. And plus, they do have 55 trophies in there. And I mean,
the medal's got to be worth something.
Well, some of them are probably made of silver, and, the silver market, woo. Yeah, it's a bull market, let me tell you. So we can melt them down to raise some cash, and then you got Murray Park and, all sorts of stuff. So we'll have to pick and pillage and pile over it to see where we can get that. But in addition to it, everything's illegal. So the possibilities are endless.
Right.
It could wind up that Craig White essentially owns the club again. It could wind up that somebody peels a mask off of Charles Green and it reveals that it was Peter Loa all along. That was Scooby, by the way. A little bit of Scooby in the afternoon. You can't beat it. It could wind up with Charles Green being on the hook for all of this money. And bear in mind, the liquidators, BDO, are picking over this all at the very same time. So it's going to be a mess. And it further sort of reinforces the idea that they are never, ever going to be the same again. It's very likely that Sevco, the current version, will be liquidated or will be wiped out as invalid, illegitimate. It's the bastard child of Rangers. Send them over the wall. So they may very well be starting a new NUCO, which would, based on precedent, you would have to think would be starting at the bottom again.
Right.
This is fun.
Oh, they're bitching and complaining about the restructure of the league and, them not being promoted for next season or all that possibility going on.
Doesn't really mean anything now.
Doesn't mean shit.
You can start SPL 4. Let's start SPL 14 so we can get them in here. No, you know what? It's time to bring up Spartans. Bring up Spartans. They got overlooked last season when they shouldn't have been. Bring them up. And Ibrox very well may be turned into a Tesco. It very well may be. We thought we were going to be spared. We thought we were going to be neglected of seeing Ibrox turned into a Tesco. Stay tuned, kids. It very well could happen. So, exciting times. Mm-hmm. Thatcher's dead. Nuco's about to die again. So what happens when zombies die? What do they come back as?
I don't even know.
What are we going to start calling them? Like mealworms?
We're in uncharted territory.
Let's all laugh at mealworms. Let's all laugh at mealworms. Ha 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 ha. That's sectarian, Rev.
Ooh, how could you?
Oh, it just never ends. But, that's bad news for the folks who say the SPL is a diminished product without them. And you even notice Celtic fans who are saying now, I really miss having them around. I miss, it's so much more. It's boring without them. It's boring without having a derby game. It's not as exciting, without having, the big game against the Huns. Well, I'm sorry to inform you, but that's not going to happen. It may never happen again. And if it does, it's going to be a lot longer than we even previously had suspected it was going to be.
I don't know where things can go from here. I mean, yes, I can definitely see getting...
Wait. Kenny Shaw from the DCCSC, he's just made a good point in chat. I forgot to mention this. There's also 2 popes. Go ahead, continue.
For them, I don't see... It's going to get worse, definitely, but I just don't, I don't see the ground floor for them yet. Things can get way, way, way worse still.
Yeah.
But hey, it's good for me, good for us.
Rev, it's not nice to laugh at the misfortune of others.
But
it sure is fun.
I want to throw in, there's a joke somewhere in there with Brother Walfred and, food on the tables of the unfortunate being them, but I can't really make one off the top of my head right now.
Cool story, bro. Right.
You know what I'm saying.
Right.
Whatever.
I kid the Rev. All right. Well, Rev, thanks for calling in.
Oh, are we done?
I think so.
Huh.
I think I don't think I can think of new ways to bitch. Look, I mean, let's land this thing on a smile. We've made it through in spite of not our best performance, not our best effort. It was exciting. Once again, I'd prefer them not to be this exciting, to be honest. I'd prefer not to have to, rely on a Stokesy header in extra time or a Samaras bicycle kick because people don't, feel like they need to bother turning up. But a result's a result. So hopefully we can spin this around. And there's going to be, interesting football to watch over the next several weeks in spite of, having the league wrapped up. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's done. It's going to be wrapped up next weekend, no question about it. I made the point that Dundee United, if they play even half as good as they did today, we will win the league before we even kick a ball next Sunday. But with that, hopefully this opens up opportunities for Dylan McGeoch, and we can open up the Israeli connection of Rami Gershon and Baram Kayal.
I'm just for my own personal thing, and I'm sure everyone else feels the same way too. I hope that we obviously control our own destiny, but I mean, as far as winning it next week, I would like for it to happen while we watch the game, or depending on our outcome of the game next week.
Oh yes, voyeuristic.
Wouldn't you like to celebrate a win next week, and that win being the win that actually clinches the league for us?
Well, I mean, yeah, theoretically, I guess I would, but it's a little bit anticlimactic, isn't it? I mean, we already know.
No, of course we know, but it's even more anticlimactic if we're already winners before we even play the game.
That sounds like one of those NBC commercials, for self-esteem. We're winners no matter what. No, I see what you mean. It is. I mean, it's anticlimactic to begin with, but then to already have won it and then we turn up. I mean, you thought the effort was bad this week. Sorry, I couldn't help it. No, I'm with you. I'd rather, obviously put in a good performance, have that build up, especially for the people at the stadium. And then, at the end of the game, final whistle goes, okay, we're champions now, release the balloons and the confetti and all that, obviously.
We're home, right?
We're home. Yeah. So,
so when's the cup final? Something like the 27th? May 27th?
May 27th, it's a Sunday. So
right.
that's a bit out of the norm where, you typically find these games on Saturdays, but there's a conflict with the Champions League final, and they didn't want Celtic to have to play the Champions League final and the Scottish Cup final on the very same day. I mean, that's just not fair. Even for the SFA, they can't expect Celtic to do that.
So what do you say? You guys want to all get together somewhere like we did 2 years ago?
Well, it's Memorial Day weekend, so yeah,
is it?
Yeah. So I mean, that's very possible. We'll have to link up with Seamus and see what's doing for that. I have to check my schedule and of course consult my wife, my wonderful wife who allows me to do this every week.
But no, I'll be down.
That's a good idea.
Go, meet up Philly, get Seamus, Yampy, even the Scouser from Dublin.
Wearing the Steven Gerrard jersey, and that's it's mint. All right, enough Scouser impersonations.
All right.
We're through. We're in the final. That's that. Got my venting out of the way. But
maybe even a real Jackie can show up to that game.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. I'm going to love yous and leave yous. Oh, I love a bit of Deco. I haven't talked to him in so long. I think he's mad at me. I'll have to catch up with him. If anybody can put in a good word with Deco for me, that'd be great. I think he's fallen out. But thank you, Rev, again for joining me, and thank you to everybody who's listened in. And taking us out, as always, is Shane McGowan and the Pogues. We're through to the final. It's going to be a green and white final. Hibs and Celtic. Celtic and Hibs. That's the right way of saying it, right, Rev? Celtic and Hibs.
Celtic and Hibs.
Yes. Yes, just like the Coronation Cup. An all green and white final. Lovely. Fantastic. So, thank you again for tuning in. Taking us out is Shane McGowan and the Pogues. Hail, hail, and keep the faith. We'll talk to you soon. Say goodbye, Rev.
Goodbye, Rev.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you? And did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years? Or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know it was not to be on a coffin ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And in Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Took our hats to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favorite bird. Then we raised a glass got JFK and a dozen more besides. When I got back to my empty room, I suppose I must have cried. Thousands are sailing again across the ocean with a hand of opportunity. Trust tickets in a lottery. Postcards were mailing with skyline skies and oceans from rooms that they like never sees. And lights don't glow on Christmas trees. And we dance to the music and we dance. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean with a hand of opportunity. Trust tickets in a lottery. Where we go, we celebrate the land that makes us refugees from fear of grace with empty place, from guilt and weeping effigies. Do we dance to the music and we dance?
Thanks again, everyone, for listening in, and make sure that you get over and listen to the Celtic Dream Show on Spreaker. Go to Spreaker.com, type in the search box Celtic Dream Show, and you can find Big G belting out the tunes. He's going live here at 7 p.m. Celtic Park time, so check him out over there, and thanks again for listening. Hail, hail.